Ooh, hold on. Hold on, hold on. Oh no, the daily quests. I'll fix those. I'll fix your daily quests. So sorry, everybody. Variables. Let's see, who redeemed? Kriegsman. Okay, you may redeem now. Here, I'll increase your value. 44. There we go. That's my fault. Sorry about that. Ellie Wandering Cat. You're at 60 now. Missing Quitch. You are at 76. Mez 59. Ruby. You're at 2. Jedi Yoshi 74. Pimson, no. Lol Hades. You're at 34. Kanget. You'll be at 62. Nikanoru. You'll be at 9. There we go. I believe that might be everyone. Hello, everyone. Good morning, evening, afternoon, or otherwise. Let me put out the announcements. Showing off world premiere. First ever live gameplay stream of the work in progress MMO Ghost with Josh Strife Hayes, Carnage, and FPC Dev Head Ghost Crawler. Showing off how far along the game has come since last I covered it. Note, everything is a work in progress. Stating Ghost as Jost, it really annoys a friend who does, we do Phasmophobia. Jost. I am skilled at Josts. I remember Ghostcrawler from the old WoW forums. Yeah, it's funny that one of the things that the FPC team mentioned to me is like they are ready for the heat that comes from this. And I mean, who better to deal with the heat of gamers than a man who worked on not only World of Warcraft, but also League of Legends. Two of the arguably most toxic, potentially, games out there. He's like collecting them like the Infinity Stones. Next he's gonna go work on Call of Duty. Hold on one sec, I'm going to mute this. So yeah, hello everyone, welcome. Today I'll be showing off, I have the privilege of showing off an early build, yet another early build of Project Ghost, the MMO in progress by the dev team Fantastic Pixel Castle. I do want to preface, as seen up here, I put some text on the screen that everything you see is subject to change, and I'm gonna make a Nightbot command. Whip. This is a work in progress build of the game. Everything is subject to change. FPC's goal showing it off right now is simply to show what a game in progress, however messy and unfinished, looks like. Go. So with the command !whip, you will see the goals of this stream. Hi, Anarchy. Let's see. I believe I'm the only one muted left, so I will unmute myself.
It says, I can't believe they'd ship with that. Just say, shh, they will get there. That's our mantra for today. They will get there. Originally, I was going to heal for this group. Instead, I am choosing to just narrate and shoutcast and answer questions from the group as they go along. But let me introduce our streamers. I'll start with Josh Strife Hayes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strife Hayes. I review MMORPGs. I'm probably best known for my worst MMO ever series, so when they were making Project Ghost, they thought, best check this isn't the worst, we'll get Josh in to give it the once-over, and so far I'm impressed with their ideas and have some critique on what they've already done. I'm looking forward to playing.
Also joining us is Co Carnage.
Hey everybody, my name is Co. I'm very excited to check this game out. I led a guild in MMOs and played pretty much all of them for decades, and I'm very excited to see what this is going to be bringing to the genre, what's new, and frankly, is going to kick some life into it. I make games myself, working on a game called Emberville, and I look ridiculous currently because of a charity reward, if you're curious. So, yeah, if you'd like more information, you know where to find me, and looking forward to trying this today. And I'm kind of in the same boat as Josh. We've seen this a little bit. I'm very anxious and looking forward to seeing what the whole loop is like, and I can't wait to dive in. Very excited for today.
And JoCat.
Hello, my name is JoCat. I am an animator and artist, and I'm best well known for my guide series on YouTube covering Dungeons & Dragons, Final Fantasy XIV, and Monster Hunter. And I have been playing this in previous builds, so I'm excited to see how much further along it is. In fact, I have seen how much further along it is, and I'm excited to show everybody else as well. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, we are really appreciative to have you guys, and like we said, feel free to, if you're worried about something, if you have questions about something, there's no filter here. We would rather hear it while we still have plenty of time to fix things. And then finally, I want to introduce our very own Juno, who is our director of product and production at FPC. And since I am not going to be healing today, she is going to join the group as well. And with that said, I think we can go.
Yeah. While we're going out, Ghost, there were some people in my chat that have actually not heard of the project. Would you mind giving the brief overview real quick so they could get all caught up?
Yeah, absolutely. So our project is codenamed Ghost. It is a Western-style MMORPG. We are all very much fans of classics like World of Warcraft, of Final Fantasy XIV, going all the way back to things like RuneScape, Ultima Online. We've played them all, and we think it is time for a new MMO. Our signature feature is called Blue Shards, which is not what we'll call it in the game. That's what we call it for now. Our world is one where a planet blew up, and now there are lots of little fragments of that world left in the sky. And so parties of adventurers fly out on skyships, and you'll see a stand-in skyship today, to go to these different shards. So we'll explore a shard. If we have time, we'll do a couple today. The shards are variable. They tell a little bit of a story, but we don't know exactly what NPCs, what monsters, what points of interest are going to appear on the map. So that's part of the fun, is the exploration.
Everyone in the chat seems excited. Ko, I've been told to tell you that somebody in my chat loves you, so you can just go to Ko's stream. That's fine. I don't want you here. You can go over to his stream. He's streaming as well.
Tell them, thank you. My warm embrace is waiting for them over here whenever they're ready.
They heard you. It's okay. If you're in my stream and you prefer Ko, that's fine. You can go over to his. I won't be hurt. I'll just cry later.
Less the guest, more the star.
Oh my lord.
But for anyone in chat, we have played this very briefly just to make sure that on a technical level it all works, and I think we've all got very interesting amounts of input and feedback. Then you're going to get a different view from all of the players.
Me and Josh did have a fist fight before. I
was very impressed with JoCat's fighting skills.
You won. It was very embarrassing for me.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it looking at JoCat, but it's like a cat. It's wild.
It's stronger than I look, yeah. And I look incredibly weak.
I appreciate you in chat, Namaste Greek, who just came over to your stream from Ko's, so there we go. Net neutral.
Cultural exchange.
Love the rivalry.
There's a rivalry already. So, Greg, do you want to just explain, why blue zones have been made?
Yeah, our goal with blue zones was part of what we're trying to fix is when you go through an MMO like World of Warcraft, there are all of these gorgeous level up zones that you blast through, kind of killing, boars or whatever, and then you never see them again, and then you rush to the end game. We thought we could do something better by really involving exploration. So rather than just going to a wiki and reading up how best to conquer the zone, we don't know what's going to happen. So we wanted to create something that's variable, that's dynamic, that you can return to over and over, and that will persist into the end game.
Oh, by the way, did you guys go into the level? Because
we did, yes.
I'm still on the ship.
Yeah, we're there. So you're going to have the traditional MMORPG permanent world framework, but blue zones are an addition to that.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. In fact, we call the normal zones red zones just to differentiate them. They will be traditional MMO zones. You'll see lots of other players running around. You can, group up with them or fight them or all sorts of things. But the blue zones are private. And I'll explain why as we go along, because it lets us do a lot of things you normally can't do in an MMO.
So for anyone in chat who's familiar with other games, I suppose the best way that I would explain what we're about to do today, the Blue Zone, is if you've played Elden Ring Night Reign, which is where 4 players drop into a world, have to defeat things, get more powerful, and then kill the boss. Or if you've played Vampire Survivors, where you get interesting feats and powers and weapons every time you find something, and you eventually, by the time you take on the boss, you are more powerful. That's similar to what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, that's a great tee up, because the party here has found their first Radiant feat. These are the roguelike power-ups that you find on every blue zone. They can choose from one of 3 or 4 or 5 abilities. It kind of depends on the zone. And these are persistent through the rest of the zone, but then they get reset when you leave the zone. So it lets people kind of experience that fun part of choosing their powers over and over again.
The one thing I really like about this system is in a lot of previous MMOs, I would play the base MMO, and then my side game and end game would be PvP. Be it queuing up, or you kind of have your base character, you do your raiding and stuff, but then you have your side activities. The blue zones are basically end game group PvE for that system. It's something that you can do parallel to your kind of main MMO character. If you're like me in that static persistent world, it's a very cool concept. Haven't seen it before.
I like to compare it to the Dungeons of Daemonheim from RuneScape, where you take the skills you've gained in the rest of the game and then go and take on a randomly generated from a bank of assets already adventure.
Yeah, so someone in chat said it's kind of like an MMO roguelike component. Yes. Kind of like you'd have a
totally,
PvP
that is it,
and
completely.
The whole, it's like an entire environment for that, yeah.
So now, again, just to reiterate to the audience, 1, this won't be the focus of the game, it will just be an aspect of it, and 2, the build we are playing right now is not finished.
So I have a
Absolutely. In fact, of the characters, the Dreamblade, who's the dude in plate with the great sword, is closer to what a shipping class will look like. The others, the ranged DPS and the healer, are much earlier on. The models, the model's not bad. The animation is not complete. The effects are not complete. The abilities are not complete.
So it's like a pre-alpha. So we're not looking so much for feedback of, that doesn't look finished, because none of it's finished. This is more about finding, I suppose the way that I described it yesterday was the design threads that are worth pulling on.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it.
Yeah, Josh actually brought up something. We had a discussion after our little playtest, and he brought up a good analogy, is designing essentially the sidecar before the motorcycle. It's going to be an MMO, it's going to have a lot of systems. Why choose to develop this one first?
It is the most risky from an innovation standpoint. If this feature doesn't work, then we need plenty of time to get it right, or potentially cut or pivot the feature. We know what good dungeons look like. There are plenty of games with good dungeons. For in my mind, World of Warcraft has amazing dungeons. We can more or less use that as a side-in to make good dungeons, but we don't have a good template for this. So we really wanted to test this out first, and then we will build other things like a new player tutorial, a good chat system. Like, we will get to all of that stuff. You kind of start with the hardest parts first.
And you guys have a pretty long development path already, right? How long are you guys planning on working on this right now with your runway?
We've been in software for about a year, which is pretty fast. Like, I've been on games that lasted for 7 or 8 years, and I would be hesitant to give an exact date on when it'll be finished, but it's not going to be like 7 more years before we're out. We hope to make this game really quickly.
I am right behind you, Josh.
I was going to say, I know we're all talking about the basics and the construction, but I've actually found the mob of enemies now that I'm going to need help with, and I've aggroed them, so help.
Let's get into it.
Thank you.
So our combat is tab target MMO style. We do a lot with smart targeting, so you don't have to pick out every individual, but you'll see as Juno heals here, for example, there is, select who you want to heal. We also don't have a tank in this group. We thought our tank class was not quite ready for showtime yet, so we're trying to do this with 3 DPS and a healer.
Good luck, healer. You're going to do fine. Yeah, that went well.
Yeah, I said on X that we did a dry run the other day, and the difficulty was way too off, and it was kind of miserable, so hoping this one goes a little smoother.
Much appreciated.
So what we're seeing is the very basic, simple ideas. These camps that we've just run into, this is not going to be the permanent blue zone map. Every blue zone is going to be randomly generated with a bunch of enemies, a bunch of different side quests, a bunch of different NPCs you can meet, specific resources you can gather and take back to the main game. How many variations of blue zone do you think you're going to end up with?
So if you think of every different blue zone as a scenario, say, or a chapter in our main story campaign, we might ship with 30 or 40 of these. Meaning, if you see the primary objective of this particular map, it says search for Tomag of the Reaping Wind. Like, that's the main objective here. Presumably, you'll finish the zone when you accomplish that goal. So we might have 30 or 40 of those. And we have a bunch of other required elements that we need in order to tell this story. Like you may have seen earlier on, they found a scouting report talking about the nefarious things that Tomag was up to. Other parts are added algorithmically. So this is a group of philosopher kings. There are bandit NPC. They happen to have a camp here. There will be different types of NPCs that spawn. We don't know exactly which enemies will show up on the map. Wild animals, we don't know what will show up on the map. There are sometimes like jumping puzzles or hidden treasures. All of that is generated at runtime, or ultimately will be generated at runtime.
So you're going to have jumping puzzles.
Yeah, you guys might find one in a minute. Fortunately, another feature we have that you normally can't do in MMOs is we let you gather resources and build buildings. And things like ramps and bridges are good when you just aren't in the mood for a jumping puzzle. You can just use that to bypass the jumping parts.
So that's one of the systems that I have probably the strongest feelings on. the build system as well. Someone in my chat earlier said, it looks like Fantasy Fortnite, and that is a descriptor that I've used before. It's definitely something that many people will think, and it can be used to circumnavigate some of the jumping puzzles that we'll do later.
And it's not that Fortnite is a terrible game or anything like that. We are trying to make an MMO and not a battle royale shooter-y experience. We just thought that building is a verb that normally MMOs don't let you do. Because an MMO has to be like reset constantly for every different group, you can't permanently alter the environment. But on our blue zones, you can. So if you want to build a bridge to get from one shard to another, you can do that. And as long as you're on the shard, you can use that bridge to get around.
Okay, so it's a way of interacting with the scenery. Getting a couple of questions in the chat that I'll just throw at you hot fire style. People are asking about any kind of release date or price point. I know it's super early, so do you want to address that now?
I mean, we don't know a release date. Partially, it's we have to get farther along and know when we're done. If we just pick a date arbitrarily, the game may be bad. Price point. We are talking about a pay for box model where you just buy the game versus like a subscription or microtransaction based free to play game. But who knows? That could change the next few years. I wanted to point out that the NPCs you were just talking to are, in this case, a friendly group. These are the Felina, which are kind of our moth people. And sometimes they're mean, sometimes they're nice. In this case, they were willing to ally with the group. They can give you various benefits. Sometimes they'll even follow along and join you in combat.
So do you want to talk about any of the unique kind of races that you have created already?
We want this to feel like a traditional fantasy world, but we are also avoiding just having things like orcs and elves completely. These might be elf-like in that they fill some of the elf niche of living in a forest and liking music and things like that, but they don't look like elves. They have antennae, even the female moths don't normally have branching antennae. They have wings. They're a little more of like the, Feywild vibe of mischievous, perhaps a little bit other, rather than just being too happy-go-lucky. We saw the Philosopher Kings, which are human. I think we saw some, if we not, we might see some Kratch later on, which is like our more savage humanoid race.
And people are asking as well about the lore of the game. How fleshed out is it already? How much effort have you put into writing the history of this land?
So that is something we have totally gone ham on because I believe it is hard to add that later. Like it was built to serve the gameplay. We didn't have to worry about a licensed IP or anything like that. But we actually do have a lot of backstory worked out. We know the overall thrust of the campaign and who the major heroes and villains are, and we're even starting to hint at a little of that even this early on.
There is a Radiant feat over here. I've just launched one of the flares. Do you want to talk about the flare system you've added?
I mean, it's pretty much what you said. Sometimes the group wants to spread out to do different things, and sometimes they want to come together. And so right now you can just press G for flare to kind of alert the rest of the team to hey, I found something cool. Maybe we should come over here.
So real quick from my chat, and a great question here. I know I've been seeing lots of different versions of this. What are you guys envisioning for the gameplay loop experience in terms of players? Is this something that a solo player can play beginning to end? Is everything going to be social? How are you guys staging that?
I would love to say everything's social and this is just a multiplayer game full stop. I realize that's not super realistic and that sometimes people want to be solo or, their friends are offline or for whatever reason. So we will probably let you do Blue Zone solo. We just don't want that to be the dominant way to play. In most MMOs, you level up solo and don't group up very often. And we think the experience is much more fun with groups. So, and the best way is with friends. The second best way is random matchmaking. And the third best way is solo, but we'll support all of those.
Cool.
And then in terms of the core loop, so you start in our hub city, we call it Haven. You fly out to blue zones to get certain types of resources. You fly out to the red zones to get other types of resources. So it's not the kind of thing where players can just choose, I'm a red zone player, a blue zone player. You really need to do both in order to progress your character.
And are there any MMORPGs that you would compare some of the systems in this to? We're not saying, are you better or worse than, but things that people might recognize.
I mean, most game developers are kind of, inherent. We look for things that work well and adopt them when they work well, and if they don't work well, that's where we try to innovate a little bit.
Inherent iterators.
Yeah. I almost said inherent thieves, and I thought, that's going to come back to bite me.
Yeah. Because I would say one of my most familiar MMOs, especially an action MMO, which this is pushing into, would be Neverwinter. And I compared the combat, especially of the Dreamblade, the class that I'm playing, to the Barbarian two-handed fighter from Neverwinter, which I think was one of the smoothest combat systems. So what's the idea for the combat system? Is it going to be slow, methodical, or is it fast and action-paced?
It's honestly closer to slow and methodical. We want people to have a chance to talk about strategies and like, who do we want to take out first? Do we want to crowd control and things like that? The action elements come more in. Some of the abilities don't require an inherent target, particularly the melee ones. Positioning matters more. We have a counter mechanic, which is like hopefully you can show it here in a minute, where a monster winds up for a big attack, and if you interrupt it, it's like a parry where you can stop the attack and maybe do extra damage. But it's not an action game like you might think of God of War or Dark Souls. Like, you can't avoid all damage just by getting out of the way of the attack. We still want the game to be somewhat gear dependent, get better gear to have more survivability or higher throughput or things like that.
You mentioned the counter mechanic. That is done by just pressing currently the C key on the keyboard, and if you press that without countering something, your character does like a little wiggle. During boss fights, I found matching the counters, especially with your team, quite fun, because if everyone counters correctly, then you see a big team counter sign, so you know that everyone's done it well.
Very nice.
Yeah. We really want to play on the counter mechanic. We think that it has been a fun part of combat engagement, so we're trying to provide more hooks into it. Like, you might find a Radiant feat that says you do extra damage after a counter, or we might have some classes that are very dependent on buffing themselves after a counter.
So
Made a little
you
ramp
mentioned-
to get over this wall.
You mentioned that the gear grind is going to be something you guys are looking at. Are we going to be farming blue zones for rare drops? Are we going to be doing raids? Are we going to be crafting?
I mean, all of the above. Ultimately, you will get some rare drops, and probably you guys will get some today if you haven't already. The main currency that you get out of a blue zone today is something we are calling mana right, not a shippable name, but you'll sometimes see little blue balls out on the world. There's also a mana right counter down by the hit point bar. The mana right is a currency you can take back to the town and use to purchase new gear. If you don't get a good drop, you can purchase gear. If you go to the red zones, you get a second currency that you can use to upgrade the gears. That's what I meant about you really need to do both. This is I mentioned the Cratch before. This is the big boy of the Cratch, the Hill Chewer, who kind of fills the ogre niche. And you can see it sometimes does a charge and shows you where it's going to run. That's where we get a little bit of the action game element, is like, get out of the way. Right now he's stunned. There he goes. He's going to charge someone.
I've got a couple of
has-
important questions in my chat. The most important one, I think, is, will Ben Starr voice anything in the game?
I could have so much fun picking out like favorite voice actors and people I'd love to work with, but we are, we're not quite at that point yet.
The second one is, what's the focus of PvP versus PvE?
PvE is the first thing we're building, and honestly will be the focus of the game. We think a really fun way to experience PvP in this game is to have two different parties go into a blue zone and then kind of race to the end. And one of the verbs they have in that sense is like, well, I'm just going to take out the other team to slow them down. So it's a little bit less deathmatching, a little more strategic. What we're probably not going to embrace is very, organized PvP. Like, we're not trying to be an esport here. We think PvP is more fun when it's another tool in your toolbox to like overcome the enemy or get better rewards.
Personally, I'm very happy that you're not trying to make it into an esport, because I feel that sometimes ruins the balance in favor of competitiveness over just being really fun.
Yeah, several of us worked on World of Warcraft, and it was a constant thorn in our side of like, well, if we nerf this for PvP, then we're weakening the character for PvE, and should we just have two totally different systems? It's a big challenge in MMO design.
Mm-hmm. While I'm sure that most people in the chat know exactly who you are, you just mentioned that you worked on World of Warcraft. For anyone that doesn't, do you want to just let people know what you have worked on, Greg?
How long do we have? No, I'm kidding. I started life as an oceanographer, which is why I still use the crab as my avatar. I then worked on the Age of Empires series for, 10 years. I then went to work on World of Warcraft. I invented the Death Knight. I worked on Transmog. I am the person to blame for Dungeon Finder and Raid Finder, although I have some regrets about that. I then left Blizzard and went to Riot Games, where I was the game director on League of Legends for several years. I started up the Riot MMO, which I think is still going strong, and then I left to form my own studio here to make an MMO.
Now, someone in my chat
worked on one of the most successful MMOs of all time, then worked on the biggest game, and then said, you know what, I'm going to make an MMO of my own.
Oh, we have a
Yeah.
mini boss coming up here.
Hmm.
Do we think we're ready?
I think so.
Are we going to try and take on vines that strangle down here?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, let's do this. Co said yes, let's go.
Well,
So the group looks like they're mostly level 1. Vines is, I'm trying to see.
he's level 3.
Level 3. However, the group does have some radiant feet, so we'll see how this goes.
Someone in my chat
It's good
mentioned
so far. Vines is about 90%.
Counter.
Yeah, got a good
Well
counter
done,
there.
missed it.
There's another counter.
Someone in my chat mentioned that the particle effects are quite flashy. However, some people have a bit of trouble, seeing clarity. Do you plan to have accessibility options to maybe tone down some of the special effects?
Yeah, so 2 ways to answer that. One is we know if we have a large group of characters together and enemies all doing very over-the-top effects, that it makes it hard to see. And so we will have built-in features like your effects look bigger than allies' effects that aren't that important, and enemy effects that are like get out of the fire are going to be more important.
Counter?
On top of that, we
Very
will have
nice.
accessibility options for people who just need to turn certain things up or down because of
Like
the
screen
way they
shaking
see
stuff,
or
I'm
hear the
assuming.
world.
Yeah. Nice one, guys.
You
Not
did
a
it. I was
problem.
skeptical, but you pulled it off. And get a reward with another radiant feat. Like in a lot of roguelikes, you sometimes get feats that synergize really well, which is super fun. I mean, it doesn't happen every time. That's part of the joy of getting a really good run. I think I just saw a pair of boots there.
Yeah, they look
I
like
already have
tanking
a
boots, so I
good
was going to
gear.
let
Okay.
one of the
All y'all's.
melees take him.
I'll steal them, it's fine.
Currently, our
Probably
loot system is very
unscrupulous.
primitive. It just spews it on the ground and people can pick it up and drop it. Eventually, we'll have a loot system that doesn't, favor the melee quite so much.
Now, one thing that I struggled with when I first saw this and tried to critique it is my style of critique very much focuses on being given something that is, or close to being, complete, so I can talk about how systems do or don't work. I found it quite difficult to judge this because it is so far away still from what you envision it being at the end. How long have you been working on Ghost for?
We've been in software for about 14, 16 months. We spent a few months before that just really trying to figure out what is the game we want to make. Do we want to use Unreal? Yes. Do we want to have a server client infrastructure? Yes. We made those kind of decisions. We worked out the IP. We worked out some of the basics of Blue Zones. And then because our team is pretty veteran, everyone has made multiple games before. We wanted to get in software really quickly and just start trying our ideas out.
Are there any ideas that you've tried out that you got feedback on and then went, you know what, this does not work?
Oh gosh, so many. Early on, we were a little closer to a survival game like Valheim, where you would land and then start building a base right away, and maybe you'd have to build a house for shelter, and you'd have to build a forge, and that just was not compatible with the gameplay we wanted, which was hey, let's go out and explore. Plus, we want you to do it over and over again. Maybe a blue zone only lasts for an hour or so. So that base building component was something we scrapped pretty quickly.
Found the final boss, guys. Do we want to take this on yet, or do you want to explore the rest of the zone?
I'm fine with either way.
Let's
I'm good with
explore the
anything.
rest, but the boss is here on the map.
Ah, so they are. Yes. Someone in my chat wanted to ask a question about gathering and crafting and building beyond blue zones, like gathering and such in red zones, I presume they mean. Are there any plans for that?
Yeah, we think crafting is an important part of the MMO. So this is something we don't have built in software yet, but we imagine there's 2 types of resources. There's the kind of wood and stone you all are gathering a lot of now, which we call that shard bound, and it goes into a special part of your inventory, and that stays with you on the zone. We don't want people to feel like, oh, I shouldn't ever use this wood because I might need it later on. You should use it because you're going to lose it if you don't. We also have rare resources, which are permanent, and those are the kind of things you can take back to town and use if you're like trying to put a gem in your pants or that sort of thing. Which is actually something we have.
Appreciate the fact that we put a blueprint for a ramp down and then all built it, because you can also build what other people put the blueprints down for, and then everyone ran up and jumped through it. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, we figured out early on it was annoying if like the person who started the building had to be the one to provide all the resources, so everyone could kind of jump in and contribute.
So couple quick questions. How are you guys going to be doing the leveling? So like if you know, how is power progression going to work? Are the blue zones going to be scaling to like group power or top level power? Are friends going to be able to play together easily in different levels?
So we do have traditional RPG leveling, like most of you are, I think, are level 2 now, and that's permanent. Like that won't go away.
That
when
is
you leave
permanent.
the zone.
Okay.
Yeah, and you eventually like will probably get to level 50 or something like that. There are power spikes inside of a blue zone as well, because you're gaining the radiant feats and things like that. That part will reset. So I kind of describe the power curve sometimes as being, you know, a series of waves that get steeper and steeper over time as you get better gear and you get higher character level. But every blue zone will have its own little mini power curve.
Awesome. And then the other question I have is more conceptual. So just so I understand properly, the red zones. If I'm in a red zone, it is a large area, and when I'm running around in that red zone, it's with, I'm assuming, like, you know, 50, hundreds of other players all doing the same thing. It's a traditional MMO zone.
Exactly. In fact, we want them to be even a little more dense than normal MMO zones, because you don't spend all your time in a red zone. So when you are in one, we really want to make sure that you see other players and ideally even interact with other players. We want to have things like bosses that require a group, or, you know, maybe a resource node that lots of people have to contribute to. We probably won't have contraptions in a red zone. That's something we're experimenting with. I'd love to have radiant feats, though. We think radiant feats have been such a hit. We'd like to even have them in the dungeons and raids.
I think Radiant Feet's part of the best things. Two things I'd like to bring up quickly, if that's okay. One person in my chat said that borrowed power feels bad, as in you get given something and then you lose it and you don't like that. I would actually say that because blue zones are temporary, the Radiant Feet system, the borrowed power aspect here, is one of the most fun bits, because it's so similar to Vampire Survivors or the mobile game Archero, which is about leveling up after every wave. I like the feat system within blue zones because it makes the gameplay a little bit different. But the question that followed was, why are you bothering to show this off now when it seems like it's so far away from release?
Two great questions. Usually the player complaint about borrowed power comes from, I've spent a whole expansion leveling up my, you know, getting better gear, and now you're resetting me down to like trash greens again in the next expansion. Or I leveled up my artifact and now you took it away, and that's sad. Like you said, we're hoping the more temporary nature of the Radiant Feats feels like, oh, I get to do it over and over again, and that's fun. Why are we showing it off so early? So MMOs are very hard to make. I would argue it may be the hardest genre of game to make, given how many systems have to work together. And if you get something wrong, it can shortcut the entire, you know, it could make the entire feature, the entire game fit. Like, a lot of MMOs have this problem where the leveling experience is pretty cool, and then you get to end game and you're like, well, there's not much here, I guess I'm done. And then we all would say that that MMO is probably a failure. So we are trying to avoid that problem by sharing the game every step of the way, so we can look out for potential like flaws. Like, I think Radiant Feats are working out really well. The feedback has been good, but for sake of argument, if they really were not fun and they really ruined the game, well, gosh, I'd much rather know that now than after we launch.
It does seem that what we're doing now is we're finding the development threads worth pulling on instead of saying this is definitely going to be in the final game. Blue zones are not going to be representative of the generic MMORPG loop and full gameplay and narrative and permanent world that will be there. But I think blue zones give you probably the best place to experiment. You will level up permanently. You will find permanent gear that goes to the red zone, the full MMO, and the blue zone, the fun little temporary bit, but the Radiant Feats are what allow the blue zones to feel so different.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sitting here reading chat. There's so many good questions in here right now.
Yeah.
Aggression, I could almost assume so, but you guys want to take it?
Let me look through. I'm sure there were a few. I just didn't want to interrupt Josh because he's very good at his job.
Sorry, I just talk a lot.
No, it's all good. I got one.
That's what we're here
Someone,
for.
Bill Durr says, will there be legitimately rare items, either random loot or weapons / armor, not just legendary quality, but something to feel special about having because not everyone has that?
I am a big fan of that feeling. I know not every player is, and it can create like really feels bad moments of, I always wanted that one sword and I can just never get it to drop. But I kind of think it's that chase that makes the item feel so valuable. And I think there's a lot of value in the what we call the peacocking aspect of like walking around town showing off this rare thing. And maybe skill had very little to do with it. I just got lucky, but I think that's cool. And I think it gives games more legs when there's always like something more out there that you haven't been able to acquire yet.
My favorite story for that comes from, no disrespect to Destiny, of course, like they do their thing with their game, but like I love, it really shows the difference. Destiny 1, there was a lot of people who weren't really into MMO or like looter games, that one of the biggest complaints I remember was that the uniques, what are they called? Exotic items, exotic weapons were far too rare. But then Destiny 2, they toned it back and exotic weapons were a lot more common. And it was really interesting to me to see that people playing Destiny 2 were like, oh, the exotics are far too common, make them rare. Because it lost that kind of special like reward sense of like, oh, I got a Gallarhorn, you know?
It is such a difficult balance to hit that sweet spot because if you never get the loot you want, like that's frustrating, and then players may churn. But if you get the loot you want too easy, players may say like, well, I finished, now I'm bored. So you
Right.
kind of want to get that like, yeah, maybe tonight I'll get that weapon I've always wanted, but you can't guarantee it.
Right. Have you guys...
So-
Sorry, you finish
go
first. Have you considered a pity system? As in, like with Final Fantasy XIV, if you finish, say, a Savage raid 100 times without getting the mount drop, you have tokens that you return and just get that mount drop.
I think that general system is a smart one and something that most MMO designers probably want to embrace, of like just the bad luck protection. If you don't want to be the person that went like 10,000 times to get the item and it never dropped, you just want to avoid it being so predictable that someone says, well, I know Thursday at 8 p.m. my item's finally going to drop, because then that kind of takes the suspension of disbelief out of like, well, I killed the dragon to see what it was in its hoard.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you guys know, the old school RuneScape Twitch is watching this now. So hi, Jagex. Hope you guys are doing well.
So, quick question to Ghost. With these blue zones, it looks like these zones are, first of all, pretty big, and they're going to be randomly generated. When you have an objective like this, we've been running around now for a good bit and haven't really made any progress at all towards our primary objective. I'm assuming, though, that we could have logged in and just happened to go right to it. So that means this adventure could have been 5 minutes, or from the size of this, it looks like it could be like an hour? How are you guys playing with that? Is that
So
intended?
what we want to do with the blue zones is we don't want them to feel completely random. Like, we're not in the procedural generation space of, say, a game like No Man's Sky or even, Starfield or Minecraft. We want to tell a deliberate story. Like, we want there to be a big climax at the end where you fight this dude and have hints along the way to get there. So part of what's going on behind the scenes is that the map places the player's start area and then finds an appropriate area to place the end arena, which is sometimes as far away as possible, but will almost never be like right under the ship. Now, in some cases, if you're brave, you could try to go fight the boss early on before you level up at all, and maybe sometimes you can pull that off, but other times it'll be either the boss is too hard, and it's not even going to always be a boss. If we get to the second zone here, it has a different endgame mechanic. But I think this is Tomag, right? We're going into his lair now.
He's the boss of this zone.
Fighting a couple of his minions up on this gate here.
Cool.
We even want to have some variety in the boss fights. Like, we're not going to go for like a Diablo-like affix system where you never know what you're going to get, but we want to have enough variation that even if you fought this boss before, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. Maybe sometimes he calls ads. Maybe sometimes he has a different ability. Things like that.
Okay, so we've got a couple more
Anything
questions in the
before?
chat. Will the class fantasy power be a focus of the MMO? How varied are the classes going to be in their playstyle?
Oh, I really am a fan of very different classes. We would love to ship with about 30. I know the team freaks out every time I say that number. But you can see they have fewer. Yeah, 30 different classes. But you can see they have far fewer abilities than a game like Final Fantasy. So one way I describe it is vanilla World of Warcraft shipped with, I think, 9 or 10 classes, but each of them had 3 different specializations. So really, they were making about 30 classes at the time. We do want them to
do this boss while still chatting.
I believe we can.
We can take a pause and let you guys strategize.
Oh yeah.
On that regard, though, doesn't that kind of flip the script? How are you guys doing that and also making tangible, meaningful differences within classes? Or are you taking the more like global approach in general?
First of all, we want the fantasies to be very different between the classes. So, for example, this healer we call a songbird and uses music to heal, but it's not a bard, but it's also not like a priest or a Overwatch Mercy either. The mage is in this party is the Tempest, which uses like storm magic. We want all of the classes to feel very different. There won't just be a sorcerer or a knight. I'm a big fan of games like Gloomhaven, Pathfinder, Darkest Dungeon, where the classes are really have a little bit of a twist to them. Like they're identifiable, but they're also a little out there.
So I'm currently playing the Dreamblade. I know that we're currently like level 1 and level 2, but I also know that the abilities we all have now are not what a level 1 Dreamblade would have, right? There's gonna be a tutorial, progression, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If I was at this stage of the normal gameplay with this many abilities as a Dreamblade, does every Dreamblade use these exact same abilities at this level, or are we gonna have more abilities than we can use, and we have to select some and bring them in? How is that process gonna work?
The thing we're playing with right now is this idea that as you get closer to the end game, you pick up weapons, and weapons in this game are class specific. Like there's no other class that uses the greatsword. That's the Dreamblade's thing. So if you find a greatsword, it can affect the Dreamblade rotation, and it might do things like changes your Q into a different kind of Q that does fire damage, or changes into a ranged attack, or things like that. We also have an item slot called a talisman, which is pretty similar to the Dark Souls style talismans that like might do very radically different things for your character. And we're hoping to get that depth through those kind of builds so that people don't, 2 different Dreamblades at max level would actually play very differently.
Kind of like the runestone system from Shadowbane back in the day.
Yeah, that's another good example. Yep.
Cool. Okay, I like that.
But if we can't, if that isn't enough depth, we will also look into like, well, maybe you have a different ability you can slot in or things like that.
I do hope you don't mind while you guys are talking that I am answering questions that have been answered already in my chat, just like typing them out and being like, oh, they said this.
I'm just watching you fly around.
Yeah.
Go on then, Ko. Run and attack the boss. Let's do this.
We don't really have a tank, so we'll see how this goes.
That's
I
fine.
believe in them.
Okay, I got this.
If we just kill the boss fast enough that our HP doesn't matter.
Oh man, it's a wind up and a half. I like that.
I don't think anyone's fallen yet, or if they have, I've missed it, but we do have a system where you can run over and get an ally back up again if you do it fast enough.
Here comes the counter. Yeah.
Oh, I'm very stunned.
No
I'm
one's
staring at
died
my
yet,
rotation.
which is, we're not running any kind of hacks. We're not running infinite health. We're not doing a better healer. Everyone is playing legitimately.
Oh, by the way,
As far as you know.
one small suggestion to the devs, since it does look like countering is going to be a huge deal in this game, it'd be awesome if we could get some kind of ability loadout towards the center of the screen so we don't have to kind of stare in the bottom right for our rotation.
Yes.
Warframe does it so well with the dots, but just some kind of, because this is very, for those that aren't seeing, I'm using my Q ability to build up my mana, which I'm then expelling into my E ability to try to burn the recast of my 1 ability while keeping the cooldowns of 2 and 3 down and 4 up when I can. So it's like, you have to kind of, there's a lot of balancing going on. You have to kind of watch to see, like I'm having to stare at that 1 to see if the cooldown actually goes off. So
Yeah,
because I can't really stare to do the counter.
That gets reset by the big slash.
Oh, is that sound? Does that sound always go off when you need to counter?
There is an audio cue.
There
for
is an
channel,
auditory
that's
cue.
pretty good, yeah.
Okay, great. That's going to be very helpful.
I should have moved there.
But
That's
you're
on me.
right that we may also let players like move around elements on
you.
their screen. Oh, there's someone.
that'd
Yeah,
be
JoCat went
great,
down
yeah.
and now is being revived.
Yeah, it's
done.
it's
Thanks.
purely because I just wanted to demonstrate it, not because I totally forgot to dodge.
Completely. That was very
For the benefit of the
considerate, man.
audience,
Thank
of
you for
course.
that. Yeah, what a guy. What a
Took
guy.
one for the team there, didn't he?
Wow.
Someone has said so far the most realistic part of this is they've not managed to find a tank for the group content.
Double DPS in it.
So assuming we finish this, we could at least start a second zone, and we could choose medium difficulty if you guys feel up for it. Since this,
Because that went so well. When
Oh yeah, we've got a tank. That sounds like a great idea.
If you want to stay on easy, that's fine. It's your game.
No, yeah, do it. Do it. Let's see what
I'm
happens.
down.
Now,
I mean, worst case is we can reset and go back to easy if it doesn't work.
speaking of difficulty, actually, that's one thing I wanted to bring up. One of my biggest, strongest feedbacks during my playtest is on account of those difficulty options. And my concern is the risk that you may have some people choosing normal that may be a bit overtuned for them when they would enjoy easy, or they might pick easy thinking that normal might be a slog, and then easy becomes a bit too easy. Is there an intended difficulty experience that you want to funnel players toward, or the main one that you're using to balance, rather?
Probably not. I don't know how many difficulties we'll ship with, and of course you can imagine medium and hard will give better rewards as a reward for taking on the tougher stuff. So we'll let players opt into it. And because a blue zone is relatively short, if they choose wrong, it's like not that big a deal. They can wipe or reset and go back.
All right.
So what Juno is doing here is building a portal, which is just a quick way to get back.
Why, thanks.
And then eventually here, you would actually like climb back onto your ship and sail away. We haven't built the ship yet, so you are now invited to. You can close the shard if you want and cash in your mana right.
And
then imagine here
some
instead of a loading
PR
screen,
during the
you're
loading
flying
screen.
back.
I'm not sure if that was meant to be shared, but it has been.
Yeah, the loading screens are fine. We won't have loading screens. Like I said, there will be a ship flying back to the town.
Mm-hmm.
This is our city. This is not at all what our city will look like. Our city is super dope looking, but we need a place for the playtester people to stand. It has target dummies and vendors and things like that. Some of these are still Unreal assets that don't match our art style.
Now, there are some really interesting questions in the chat about super deep development stuff and super specific engine limitations and whatnot. I think it's very important to reiterate, almost nothing you're seeing right now is the final product. This is a very, very, very early part of the process. 18 months, less than 18 months work has got us to this bit.
Okay, so that's cool. So I actually warped away and I can see you guys firing flares from all the way up here. That's kind of fun. I don't even think I can see the model, but I can see the flares.
Used to be like when I started in game development, we would call this phase gray box because literally everything was a gray box. You'd have to say like, hey, pretend that gray box there is a dragon and go fight it. One of the nice things about Unreal, and particularly the marketplace, is you can just go get assets. You can go purchase them for relatively little money. So these are not like our trees, I don't think. These are Unreal marketplace trees, not unlike the trees in the Blue Zone, which were actually made by our artists. So if you see Juno's screen here, this is opening up the atlas, which will decide which map we're going to next. And she is picking medium difficulty for the follow-up. Another thing I wanted to point out here were the shard echoes. These are mutators that affect the entire map. So on this map, it looks like occasionally a hammer will fall out of the sky that you need to avoid. And if you're clever, you can try to get the hammer to fall on enemies. Let's see what the second one is.
So the first time we tried to do this, it was the echoes that really made it difficult. What's the purpose and the point of the echoes, and how varied are they going to make the blue zones?
The echoes are just another way to make sure that the blue zones feel different. It's a zone-wide persistent effect. We had one the other day that was really cool, which is that the trampolines had double the normal height. So we built a lot more trampolines than we normally would have. Looks like the other echo you got for this one is enemies will explode on death. So keep that in mind to get out of the way once someone falls.
So we have exploding enemies and hammers falling from the sky.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So just don't stand still.
Yep. And medium difficulty, so we'll see how this goes.
Right, so all the enemies are also tougher.
Right.
This is gonna.
I think JoCat asked about dynamic difficulty. Overall, we will have blue zones that are like, you can pick a level 6 blue zone if your party is around level 6. You'll also start to see like more appropriate enemies. Like you wouldn't expect to find a dragon in low level zones. You'll be fighting, traditionally in MMOs it would be rats or crabs or something like that. We'll try to come up with our own twist to that, and then you'd fight more powerful, epic things as you get higher level.
So the objective in this one is actually defend an NPC from waves of enemies, not defeat a single boss.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and we'll also have objectives that are like find an item, or maybe escort an NPC if that's not super frustrating or something like that.
I'm being
gonna
attacked
have
already, so
I hope you guys are ready to fight.
guys, good luck.
Here we go.
These are Undreaming. This is our version of Undead.
Oh God.
We call them Undreaming because they die from lack of sleep rather than being just skeletons or zombies.
Oh, I might
But
be one of
the
those
husks,
then.
which are the melee ones, are actually pretty weak, so hopefully you guys can take them out.
I believe I may be an
The
Undreaming
ranged
then.
casters are much more powerful. That guy in the back is a Lamenter, and he's casting spells. And there's a counter.
We got this. Easy.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
I am very much focusing right now. Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell when shit got real. No more chatter.
I know, right?
Nice knockback from the healer.
Good counter.
We do want to have crowd control. There's not a lot of it in the game yet, and mostly we're stuck with stuns. But we want to have roots and snares and other ways to stop both enemies and players in PvP.
I forgot that corpse explode, so that was fun.
Yeah, I think the most impressive thing, definitely from the previous playtest to this one, is just seeing all the different variations that you guys have when it comes to blue zones. And, in my video covering the previous build of the game, that's exactly what I was hoping for. Is just like
Nice.
more variations, things like echoes, like the radiant feats, like the different objectives. I feel as though that's the right direction to go with blue zones.
There's this framing that people who work in proc gen talk about, which is you can generate 3 different bowls of oatmeal and say, look, these are totally different. The oatmeal is configured in different places, but a player just sees that and says, like, those are bowls of oatmeal.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just move a tree to a different location and expect players to be excited about that. The experience, the gameplay really has to be different for it really to feel like, oh, this is a different experience.
5 husks, so good luck, everyone.
I'm gonna get rid
Oh,
of
yeah,
You guys
the,
are level
bit harder.
3. I
the
think you're
dust
fine.
boils. Now here's an interesting thing. You guys have got environmental hazards as well in these dust boils. Is that also a part of the generation, or is that more so like is that another aspect that is randomly generated, or is that tied to the Undreaming?
It's tied to the Undreaming. The Undreaming spread by creating the dust boils, which then generate the dust, which includes the thorns. I should say the biome we're playing on today is called the Witchwood. We will have multiple biomes when we ship the game. The Witchwood is kind of a Eastern European forest, so a lot of it is like, with that kind of grim fairy tale idea in mind. So the Undreaming, they have like deer skulls for heads, and they grow thorns around their camps. Looks like Gino has found a little tent. Is there something in the tent?
Cursed.
Do you guys feel like you're getting into the rotations a little more than the first time we played?
Yeah, without a doubt. Now I know what resets what, but Ko is right that we need a visual kind of hint that our reset ability has actually reset our other skills.
Yeah.
How you guys planning on doing servers? Are we going to be picking individual servers, making sure our buddies pick the same one? Can everyone just play together easy?
We want to play together easy. We realize you lose something in the spirit of like backing up. Traditionally, MMOs, one of the ways they were super cool was like every server had like a different community feel and different people you would meet on the server and things like that. And I love that feeling. I just wonder if it's a relic of a bygone era, because you have server transfers, you have dead servers. I think today people just want to be able to play with their friends and not be like, well, there's a queue on the server I want to get into. So we will probably, yeah, I mean, we'll have servers behind the scenes, but it's not something players will have to worry about.
Cool.
Someone asked, how will inventory work? Weight limit slots, like a bag system like WoW, or just a set amount of slots?
Right now we have a bag system, much like WoW. I don't think it will be weight based or Diablo style, like size of the item based. TBD, like what do we need in the terms of banks, or we've talked about maybe you have a shared cache among all the characters on your account, or those are just features we haven't gotten to yet.
Mm-hmm. Interesting question in the chat. People are saying that if you're locked into a specific class when you choose your class, how varied are the radiant feats within Blue Zones going to be to make each Blue Zone a different gameplay experience? Because the fun of a roguelike comes from building a new group, building a new style of play every time.
Yeah, right now the radiant feats are not class specific. It's something we debate a lot of, do we want to go down that route, or do we want to do more class-specific stuff through like the weapons and talisman system I was mentioning earlier? Another idea is role-based feat. So like the healer character might have a different choice, but every healer would have the same, the same set.
If I could make a suggestion to consider, perhaps there is a radiant feat to get rid of that restriction. Maybe, I don't know.
Which restriction?
Should you go down the roles or class-based restriction of like these radiant feats?
Just say like now yeah.
There could be a radiant feat that just like you get other classes' radiant feats.
There is an echo that gives you more radiant feats. Like typically you get a choice of 3, but there's one echo that gives you a choice of 5. You guys may have had that on the first map.
We might have.
I think that if Blue Zones are effectively the roguelike element of the MMORPG, then the more variation we can add into it, the better.
Yeah, we really want to make sure players don't get bored of Blue Zones. We can't afford to have players say like, yeah, I did Blue Zones for a while and now I'm kind of done with them. Like then we're spending a lot of development time on something for nothing. So we really want to make sure it's the core experience of the game.
From kind of that core experience perspective, it seems like how are you guys planning on balancing the things that fundamentally make an MMO an MMO with like a big majority of the game being basically small group roguelike play? Like it sounds like, because that's going to be basically mandatory, right?
Yeah, it'll definitely be mandatory. We're hoping it'll feel more like 50-50, like you spend half your time in Blue Zones and half the time in the larger red zones.
So like and I asked this just specifically kind of just like, is this an MMO or is this an MMO roguelike? Like, is this something different?
Some people
because I feel like when you say MMO, you're thinking like big persistent world, like lots and lots. Like this feels like something else. I don't know.
Some people would argue that a roguelike has to mean that you are constantly like dying and starting over from zero, and you do progress here. You keep your loot, you keep your character level and things like that. So, it's I know there's another term for that, a rogue legacy like or something. But we want it to feel like an MMO. We don't want people who love MMOs to like reject this game and say, oh, well, this isn't for me. If it's not for them, then we've kind of failed.
So if like that traditional experience is that more like just large scale play, is there a world where that roguelike component is less mandatory? So they can still have fun in that like more traditional MMO component part?
I think if there are players that really don't want to spend any time, I mean, they'll have to come to the Blue Zone because there's currency here. But
yeah, like I was talking about earlier, like a lot of times you kind of get to you spend 300 hours getting to the end game, and then you PvP sometimes, but your kind of main game is the MMO.
Yeah,
like, I'm wondering
that's fine if players, like particularly once they're at end game, decide that what they really want to do is focus on PvP, or what they really want to do is focus on the raid. Like that's fine. We're not going to like
thank you so much for the raid.
All the different features.
Cool. Okay.
But they can't completely.
Question: if we jump to this other massive land, can we get back to where we are now?
Always, went for it. Always by building a bridge.
Yeah, I'm right behind you. Let's do it. Let's
you can also build the portal, which will take you back to the ships. There are ways to
get the portal takes us back. Yeah.
I've gotten several.
I happened to pick up the item, so I can turn in this quest.
Nice. I've gotten several asking this already. People are saying, Greg, where's the fishing?
Oh, that's a great question. Great question. 10 of 10. Would fish again.
I mean, I'm the kind of person that feels like RPGs need to have fishing. How exactly it works, like one of our artists said, hey, we're on this sky ship all the time. Should we be able to fish in the sky? And maybe that's where the fish are? Yeah, so...
Terra, my beloved.
I definitely love to have fishing, and
sky whale.
I want to personally geek out by like designing, the biology for all of the things you can catch.
I did notice that in the environment, kind of off the map, you guys have sky whales and sky turtles of immense thalassophobic size.
Get what was it, Xenoblade vibes right there? I like it, man.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Let's go.
And we want the world to feel epic and to remind people that you're not in like, Middle Earth or Westeros or something like that. This really is a new place you haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I found a radiant feet.
Oh, this is complete for this section. Okay. Thought we won for a second.
I think
So
somebody
another
else
question
took-
that's coming up repeatedly in the chat is, with this being such an early build, why show it? And I think the answer is you're interested in the potential future players of the game being actively involved in the process of creation. So just talk a little bit about how much you want the audience involved in the process of creation.
I mean, it is like fundamental to the way we run the studio to like make sure that players are, have a seat at the table, and that we're building a game that they're going to be excited about, that we're not doing something dumb that's going to annoy them. We're not crowdsourcing the game. We're not going to have players like vote on features or things like that. But like the question, Ko was asking just a little bit ago of like, is this too far from MMO? Are we going to have a lot of people who are excited about this game ultimately reject it? Like, that's the kind of stuff that we want to make sure to nail. And if we need to like add more MMO features or make sure that the red zones are more front and center, like, again, I would much rather fix that before we launch than be trying to like panicky patch it in, before we lose all our players.
So one thing I do want to touch on, because this is a very interesting design philosophy for a project of this size. Like having your project based on feedback is kind of like medicine, right? I mean, it's fantastic in the right dosage, but if you get too much of it, it's a poison pill. So take a game like The Culling, it over-engineered itself due to community feedback into basically failure. They were not able to properly go through the feedback and implement it in a way that made everyone happy, but they just kept trying until they ruined it. How are you guys approaching your filter for feedback? What testaments and trademarks are you unwavering on with this game?
Yeah, that's a great question. For starters, we have a very solid vision of the game that we want to make, and we have a very solid idea of who the audience is. So we're not trying to make a game for everyone. We've had some like more survival players saying like, well, I wish the building was a bigger part of the game. Or we've had people say, well, I really just want to like have something like WoW Arenas and focus on that. And like, yeah, they may be disappointed. If you try to make a game for everyone, you end up making a game for no one. That's part of it. Is just be crystal clear on your audience and like what is core to the vision or not. Like exploration is core to the vision. And if we got a lot of feedback that said, well, what I want to know is just give me the map of the whole thing and show me where everything is, then I could just go to the next part. Like, we wouldn't do that because that just kind of fundamentally violates the vision of the game.
Oh, awesome.
It's hard though. I mean, this is something I've tried to do my whole career, is like listen to players, really understand their concerns and what it is they're trying to fix, so that we can make a better game. Because we want players to embrace the game. Or if people come and they're like, this game's okay, well, gosh, we've just spent a lot of time and money for nothing.
That's exactly right. I'm glad you guys are thinking about that. We live in an age of too many of those games, unfortunately.
People are asking in the chat a very simple question. Who is the target audience for this game, then?
We really want to target Western, by which I mean players who love World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Elder Scrolls Online, Guild Wars 2. Like, a lot of those games, are in some cases decades old. And there's a sense that it's time for a new big tentpole MMO. And when we ask players, like, if we made a new MMO, would you try it? The numbers it's like 80% of players say absolutely. So we think the hunger is there and the timing is right for this kind of game. But that is really the core audience we're targeting. If we get a lot of people who love Warcraft and hate our game, we've probably made a mistake. Now, that said, we're not trying to take on WoW. We're not trying to say, don't play WoW anymore, play our game instead. And in some cases, we're trying to make a game that lets you fit it in, even if you have like a main that you mostly focus on.
There was a comic.
So can you tell the audience anything about the narrative of the main game so far? Not necessarily the gameplay of the Blue Zones, but the narrative of the story of Project Ghost.
Yeah, I would love to get into that. I'll probably say too much, but so clearly this sky full of these broken planets did not happen. It's not a natural occurrent phenomenon. Something strange happened that preserved the environments of these places, didn't just like disintegrate. At the same time, there were once gods in this world, like powerful deities, and they are all gone. And the players start out like not understanding why, like what happened, where did they go? There aren't like a lot of priests getting their spells from the gods. So the big mystery is kind of like, how did the earth break up, and what happened to the gods? And part of the narrative will be like understanding that and like needing to understand it in order to like prevent really bad things happening towards the end of the story. I also want to take a little credit for, we are planning out a 10-year story. I only hope this game lasts for 10 years, but we wanted to make sure we knew where it was going. There were, I mean, I guess it's okay if I say this, there were times on World of Warcraft where we would finish, say, Mist of Pandaria expansion and be like, okay, guys, what next? Like, where are we going? And we didn't have, I think they do now, to give them credit, but at the time we didn't have a roadmap of where we were ultimately going with things. So for Ghost, we really wanted to know where we were going.
I think I found the boss.
Ooh. Heading near
how are you guys planning on delivering the story beats? Is this going to be through private blue zones that are story like centric? Is this going to be through raids and red zones? What's going to be your primary story conveyance?
A lot of it will be talking to NPCs in the town, who will be some of the like quest givers and storytellers. Like in this case, we just told you go search for Callistra, Seer of the Dragonmoon Court. That's the primary objective. Maybe that actually comes from an NPC in town who's telling you to do that and gives you a little more context on why. We don't want to.
It's not a boss. It's just a big hammer.
We don't want to interrupt the Blue Zone experience too much.
Oh yeah.
With cinematics or NPCs jabbering at you or that sort of thing. We want to do it more in downtime.
Oh, so this boss is a wave defense. Are we ready?
Oh,
I believe so.
Let's do it. Why not? Let's give it a go.
Now, I noticed one of us has brought together a Juno, sorry, the only person who has actually paid attention to bring along, because we completed a side objective that allowed us to have an ally. Is that going to be like, do you plan to have other factions that you can ally with, or is that just a thing for these moth people exclusively?
There will be some people you can never ally with, like the Undreaming, the Undead, like they're not interested in being your friends, but we've even talked about doing it with wild animals, like you feed the panther a steak and maybe the panther joins you. And again, these are just for the rest of the Blue Zone, not something that will persist.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the exploding enemies and the falling hammers is making this very difficult.
But you can use it to your advantage.
This is what I wanted from Blue Zones. I wanted a bit of variation within the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Pull the hammers onto other enemies.
Oh, do the hammers hurt the enemies as well?
Oh yes.
As do the death explosions, I believe.
Oh, cool. That's suddenly a lot better.
Yeah, much better than the Echo, where, hey, you have twice as many enemies to deal with.
Oh yeah, that one was hard.
Yeah, we had to fire the designer that came up with that idea.
I was the same guy that came up with the escort quest, right?
I am sure we will come up with
Where are you, Josh?
echoes and feats that are, that are bad, and that's why we iterate. That's why we play test.
You know.
Oh,
Josh
Lord.
is down.
I got him.
Do the attacks lock you into place? I think most of the attacks do have an animation that kind of parks you, but some of the attacks are mobile. Oh, and you can also do like sprint attacks, and you can kind of jump and attack and do stuff like that as well.
We discovered that one of the classes, the Tempest, specifically doesn't lock you into place. If you jump and hold E to do their auto attack, you actually fly through the air.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
May not be intended, but maybe
I was going to say, probably not
It's not
intended.
intended, but you've got to keep it.
Oh,
If not for the
The
Tempest,
Dreamblade
maybe
also,
not.
we didn't talk about this, but a lot of times when you jump and attack with the Dreamblade, it actually executes a different kind of ability.
Yes,
So
very
there's a little more depth there.
Very fighting
with
game-esque.
both the attacks, yeah.
we do not have much of a threat system at all. It's something we're building now, so that's a little bit of why you are seeing enemies just kind of, sometimes pick a target and then switch.
Yeah, we haven't commented on it, but some may note that none of us have picked the work in progress tank class, specifically because it is very work in progress, and both me and Josh had our own feedback that it's like, okay, this tank class is not ready.
It was very funny that I picked the tank class to try and see what it could do, and I said, guys, I don't feel this is working, and JoCat went, let me give it a go, and then after about 10 minutes he went, yeah, this isn't working.
Partially, without a threat system, it's hard to lock down an enemy to attack you.
I was going to say, you're basically using a gun without bullets. I mean, you can only do so much.
This is interesting. Something that I'd love your guys' feedback on is, one of the things I was trying to avoid is not having a lot of AE lockdown for tanks, because I feel like that leads to gameplay where the tank has 100% control of the battle the entire time. No one else ever takes a lot of damage because everything is always attacking the tank. And so trying to feel the right way to give the tank some abilities, some emergency buttons, without it being everyone is always safe.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also, having abilities that break aggro, having conical abilities that go purposely different directions on what they're attacking. A lot of boss fights, especially back in EQ2, would have ads that would specifically not target whoever the tank was targeting, which would become kind of interesting. So, what's cool about this game is it doesn't really have to be which one do you pick. It's just those are all different, the limiters that could be in different blue zones, right?
Yep.
You can literally play with your aggro system as a modifier.
People are asking in the chat, what's the focus on solo versus group content?
I'm one of those people that says, why do you want to play an MMO solo? The whole point is other players. But I realize there are times when it makes sense. You just want to chill. You've had a hard day and you just want to kill some bad guys. Or your friends aren't online yet and you want to, get something done. So we will allow you to solo, but we're not going to embrace the kind of player that says, I want to raid solo. I want to do everything solo.
Mm-hmm. Will you at least let them attempt it, even if it would be almost impossible?
Yeah, but we won't stop them from zoning in. It's just not going to be tuned for one player, and you know, they may go to social media and say, I deserve to be able to fight this raid solo. But...
Challenge runs are always entertaining, either to watch or to play.
Someone's going to solo the dungeons, and I want to see them do it.
I would like to give a shout out.
Great streaming video fodder.
I would like to give a shout out to Wrath Games, who is currently going through the entirety of Final Fantasy XIV completely solo, completely synced, level synced as well if he can, and it is like art.
That's a great point. So we're actually hoping that some of the features of this game make it something that is very streamable or makes funny videos, because people will say look at this crazy combination of feats and echoes and enemies I found, and hijinks ensue. It's hard to create that sometimes in MMOs because everything feels so locked down all the time. But we knew making this game we were going to have to just be okay with a little more unpredictability.
Not designing for solo is fine, as long as you still allow people to attempt it and figure out their own ways to do it.
Exactly, yeah.
So one person... oh, sorry, you go first, Ko.
Just a quick one. Are you guys going to allow changing classes or new characters for every class?
I was just about to... Yeah, my chatter had the same question.
Oh, well, there you go.
Good.
So we like the idea overall that you have multiple characters, and we want the game to feel very alt-friendly because we want to make a lot of weird type classes, and we want players to be able to feel like they can try them out. But I also think that part of the joy of an RPG is you're making a new character. So we want to have multiple races and different appearances and things like that. So rather than just kind of, hey, I have one character that can do everything, it's just go make a different character if you want to have it.
Mm-hmm. And how alt-friendly is the game going to be? Is it going to be you have to put months into one character, or will you be able to level up a second relatively quickly?
We want to be as alt-friendly as we can, down to the level of we might even let alts share inventory and splash experience and things like that. The way we've designed the campaign with the blue zones is you can replay zones So once you've done the campaign, you can also just skip them. If you're making character number 4 and you don't want to play through the first 10 zones, just skip them and go to the 11th one and start. We just want to make sure you still actually play the alt. Like you could engineer it such that like I only played one character and now all of my characters are finished. Like that's not what people are going for either. I think you won.
Yeah,
I think we did pretty well.
I have a personal
Wow,
question.
for medium even.
I have a personal question. While fighting this enraged hill chewer, why are the hill chewers so caked up? That's not a bad thing, by the way. Just like props to the
for the older people in my chat, he's talking about the derriere of the mob.
Yeah, there's a lot of junk in the trunk of the ogres.
There is. I would like to speak to the artists and shake their hand.
Careful, they'll jiggle.
We'll ask Bird and Val what exactly were they thinking with the hill chewer derriere.
Why they make them like that?
So now for the real question. We are Sky Islands with sky boats. So what kind of mounts will we be flying around on?
We like the idea of everyone having their own sky ship and maybe multiple of them. You can have like a garage with different hulls and that sort of thing. We're hoping that it's the kind of deal where like when a group goes off, either it's the group leader or someone at random kind of gets to show off their ride and everyone's, admiring the cool sails they have and stuff. So in that world, we might have a few animals like a whale or something that's large enough for everyone to get on. But we probably won't get to the point where you're just cruising around on your manta ray or whatever solo through the sky.
And in that case, no flying around like inside of the zones and stuff? Like no mounts in the zones?
Mounts in the zones is a very contentious point. We've gone back and forth on whether or not we need them. Right now, the gameplay feels quick enough that you may not need to like stop and mount and dismount. We did have one Blue Zone ID we played with for a while, which I'm sure we'll bring back, which is one of the NPC factions were dragons, and if you allied with the dragon, you could get on them and fly around, and that felt like super awesome because you don't get to do it all the time.
But then everyone would be dragon. How could you possibly beat that on any other faction?
Well, because they might not be
I
available.
just meant you would find some dragon NPCs and ally with them. It's only going to last for this.
Yeah, I think
So
really.
you would be like choosing another. That's cool. That's very cool.
I do want to compliment you guys on the design front. That is very clever. The fact that you have this variation gives you a lot of wiggle room to have things that are broken, things that are crazy, things that are weird,
Yes.
because it's not going to stick around all the time.
Exactly. And sometimes you'll find a god build and you'll just one-shot the boss and you'll be like, wasn't this funny, and make a video of it, and that's awesome.
But the game is not finished yet. It's still got a long way to go. There's a lot of process. A lot of stuff might change. We've seen some systems that you're focusing on, like the Radiant Feast. What do you hope the audience take away from seeing this stream? Because you're going to get people that go, well, the game's not finished. Yeah, we know it's not finished, but what do you want the audience to take away?
First, we just kind of want them to understand the kind of game we're making and what we're going for, so that when we start asking for feedback, or hopefully we'll get more people able to play test soon, that they'll kind of know the right way to direct the feedback. If someone's like, "Well, I really wish your game was a first-person shooter," it's like, well, that feedback is perhaps not as helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone says, "I like the feats, but they're too random," well, maybe there's something we can do with that.
So at this stage of development, are you guys looking for and taking feedback on what is here, like on a public level? Or are you guys going to be kind of like opening the floodgates on a day or event, at a specific place, specific medium, that kind of thing?
Honestly, we'll probably do a bit of both. Like, we would love to get to the point where we have, our own Discord. Maybe we do like Q&A streams or stuff like that, and just find out what's on people's minds. Like, I'll be interested to go back and read, not only the chat, but the feedback that comes out about this, and what players are excited about, where they have concerns, what parts of the art style do they like, where do we think we still need to invest. Like, all of that is really helpful as we decide what we're going to work on next. And honestly, and on that note, before we run out of time, I'd love to just get feedback from you all of like, what do you think we should work on? Like, what needs the most attention next? And then maybe, what's working well?
The enemy density in the blue zones needs to be tuned up about 10 times as much, because I like the combat, I just don't like the long runs between the combat.
I would say...
That's funny, because I was telling the team to thin it out at one point, because I thought there were like so many camps, it felt like the suburbs, or it's like, let's go see what the Undreaming are doing. Next to them are some pirates or whatever. So
I would argue...
that's good feedback.
I
We
want to kill more stuff.
Yeah, I would argue maybe not necessarily, like I agree, more stuff between, but I would argue that it doesn't necessarily need to be enemies, like optional objectives, like the climbing puzzle that we did in the playtest, Josh, like just like things to do in between, even if not necessarily enemies.
Yeah, you guys didn't have a lot of jumping puzzles in this one, and again, that's just part of the random nature. Is sometimes you get some, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the biggest feedback, I'd probably need like an hour or two of your time. I like my feedback is more on the overall vision of the meshing of these two significantly not different. They are rather complementary. But I just came from the game Dune, and they are having an issue with a schism in terms of the gameplay loops they're offering their community, and it's causing a lot of friction. And they got to a point where they're kind of too late to pivot, and now they're kind of trying to deal with it, and it's not a great situation. So the thing that I'm looking for here is I heard, Ghost MMO, I'm sold. Played the game, I'm here, like the roguelite stuff, like all that stuff, but my biggest concern is there going to be enough MMO in this for me? Because I heard main city. That immediately makes me think of Destiny, PoE, Warframe. Like that makes me think online small multiplayer. Not like every, not bunch of cities out in an immersive world that's always persistent. Like those, I attach a lot of things to the term MMO that I don't know if it will be in this game, which is one of the reasons earlier I was like, I don't know if this really is an MMO, because that sets all these expectations that I don't immediately know if the game will offer. Not that what's here isn't awesome, but just like that's where my biggest feedback is I'd love to see more, like maybe even from you guys, like a letter of like, what about this is going to make me feel like I'm really playing an MMO and not just kind of another online action small player game kind of thing.
Side note, while we're talking, I've found a mini boss, so if you could all converge on me, that'd be great, please.
Coming right now.
Thank you.
On my way. Yeah, I agree with Ko there.
That's a great point, because I had kind of chosen one city, because in a lot of MMOs, there are multiple cities, and typically 5 of them are dead, and everyone is in one, and then the others kind of
and then every other one has single-digit players. Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, if we just have one city, we know everyone will be in it, and then we can give a lot of love to that city by having it feel persistent, having it update over time. Like I always tell the team this story, they're probably sick of hearing of like, you come back after a while, and in the expansion or whatever, the tavern keeper has adopted a cat, and now they're talking about their cat, and you see the cat in the tavern. Like, that usually doesn't happen in MMO. Like, the NPCs just stand there forever and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
This, I believe, is not our art. I think this is an old Unreal Lich, but still makes a fine villain for now.
It still feels good.
I'm struggling with, and I had a conversation with a couple of the Fantastic Pixel Castle guys about this. I see, and correct me if you think I'm wrong in any of this, I see Ghost right now in 2 very distinct ways. I see it first as an idea, a project, a process, an MMO that's being made, that's being worked on with lots of potential. And as far as that goes, I think it's great. I think the potential is definitely there. But I also see it as the actual gameplay slice that you've given us to play. And normally my review style is based on the gameplay slice that I have, not the promises of potential for what it's going to be. So I'm finding it quite difficult to critique it in my normal style, because I want to critique the game that I'm playing right now, even though I know this isn't going to be representative of the game that you're ultimately going to end up making.
Right. We're not going to be shipping this, and players aren't going to have to make a decision about do they want to play this or not. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even more interesting to add on top of that it's going to be so driven by community feedback that like none of us may know what it's going to look like at that point. Like it's an interesting, very unique situation.
Yeah. And it will change over time. But of course, we'd also be happy to have you all back periodically to kind of check in and see if you still think the direction is good, or if we veered off in a crazy space or something.
Yeah. My biggest feedback is get that tank working, get that aggro system working, so that you can really know what you're working with in terms of the combat. Because like a lot of this is combat, and a lot of the classes' abilities interact with each other. So having the tank available, I think, will be very, very helpful for the playtesters.
It's close. I think we'll get to the tank online pretty soon.
I look forward to it.
I think the way that I've described it to people is this isn't so much displaying the ingredients that are going to be used to make a cake, as in showing the idea of the kind of cake that you may one day make and asking if this is the right process that people do want. So the ingredients can all be changed around and gathered. It's earlier than early right now.
It is a prototype. That's where we are, where we have to like test features out before we put a lot of love and polish on them.
So what do you see the end game being? Because people are going to play it, finish it. What are they going to do ultimately? What's the final gameplay loop?
We do want to have raids and challenging dungeons, just because several of us grew up on that and we love that. And I've even thought, I may have mentioned this, about is there a way to put radiant feats, like after every boss you get a radiant feat? Maybe that would be fun. We also think there's potential to have like really challenging blue zones where you have to really plan out every single pull, because it's kind of brutal, and maybe, you know, we could even make them hardcore where you can only die once. Or we think, again, for end game, we think that might be a fun challenge.
Just out of curiosity, is there any lore basis for the roguelike stuff?
Not a lot. We've been figuring out what that is. Your characters in this world are something called a radiant, R-A-D-I-A-N-T, not like radiance.
Yeah.
And that's why we do things like when you glide, you have the big circle behind you. We call that a halo, because you're a radiant and you're somehow touched by magic that, again, you don't quite understand the origin, but you're more powerful than mere mortals. And so that's why they're called radiant feats, and we're trying to tie that into what it is about that lets you pick up the power. And we'll have an answer for it. It's just, this is one of those features that we added more recently and have to work the lore around it while there's still time.
Yeah, real quick to chat. No, blue and red zones have nothing to do with PvP. Blue zones are the RNG zones. They're kind of procedural zones, and red zones are the more standard MMO zones. Yeah, like
exactly. Yeah, we just call them blue and red because I needed a way to quickly differentiate them when pitching the game.
So probably we're about to race downhill.
Let's do it. I'm down.
Quick question, probably a very simple question. Why are you making an MMO?
Oh god.
We love MMOs. Like, it is my favorite genre of game. It's the most social genre I think there is. Like, there are a lot of multiplayer games. I often say, if you want a super competitive game, go play League, go play Valorant. If you want a game that tells a great first-person story, go play Expedition 33. But MMOs, for the sense of community, for like seeing another player across a field and saying, that's a real human. And even if I never see them again, that's fine. Or maybe I join them up for a quest, or maybe we fight each other. Like, that magic of MMOs is what I really love, and it's hard to capture in any other genre. It is ambitious, I admit. We could certainly have picked an easier genre.
So good competition lull, good single player expedition, good MMO, 20 to 30 year time machine in the past. That's what I'm hearing. This will be good. This will be very nice to have this year for sure.
One of the strangest elements, then, I think the audience will appreciate this, that I respect, is when a company know what they want to do, even if I give them advice against it. So I was talking to Chris Wilson from Path of Exile, and everyone knows that the Path of Exile skill tree is extremely intimidating to new players. And I said to him, do you want to maybe change how you portray that to new players to not intimidate them as much? And he went, no, because the skill tree is a filter. We want people in our game who are going to appreciate this. If you don't like that, you're not going to like the game. And I thought, you know what? I respect the answer, because he has a focused vision of what he wants it to be. So when I was chatting to the fantastic Pixel Castle guys and said, hey guys, an MMO is a really hard game to make. You could just make a mobile game or a single player RPG. And they turned around and went, no, we want to make an MMORPG because we love this genre. I kind of sat back and went, okay, then that's the best answer you can give.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I really want to thank you for doing this. We took a lot of notes and learned a lot, and I can't wait to see what your various communities have come back with. Hopefully we'll see more conversations on the internet over the next few days.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much, and please keep in touch, and please come back and play with us more.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
To reiterate to everyone watching, this stream wasn't to get you to pre-order or to support any kind of Kickstarter or to financially gain in any way. It was just, look, we made a thing.
yeah, you're cool. This is cool. Why don't we hang out and check out our game? Yeah, there's no call to action here. We just wanted to get a little bit of feedback and get the game in front of people and see their reaction.
Very much.
Really appreciate your time, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Phil. Thanks, JoCat. Thanks, Josh.
Yep.
Thanks, Juno.
Everyone who's
guys.
been watching my stream, thank you very much for watching. You can follow Fantastic Pixel Castle on all of the socials. It will be linked in the Twitch, link to the video. It's on Twitter, on Instagram. They've got a load of cool stuff. And any more notice on the game, I will let you know. Everyone in my stream, thank you very much for joining. I will see you guys later. Take care.
Real quick, Ghost. One final thing. If somebody was watching today, they're super interested, they want to be ready to start giving that feedback as soon as you're ready, where do you tell them to go? What's your main point of? Do you have a Discord, website, forums? Where are you sending people right now?
We don't have a Discord yet. It's something that we do want to build up, but it does require some work.
Cool.
We'll see it on social media. We're on Twitter X and Blue Sky. We have you can hit up me. You can hit up our official at Fantastic Pixel Castle. We'd love to hear feedback that way, but we'll probably find it anywhere you are on the internet.
I've linked.
Thank you so much, brother.
I've linked to your YouTube
Thanks for
channel.
joining, guys. You guys have a great night. Take care.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Yeah, I've linked the YouTube. Their YouTube channel should have pretty much everything, like all their social media stuff. Oh, actually, I'm going to rejoin the voice channel. I'm going to be saying goodbye to my chat. Would it be all right if I just kind of stuck around here in my stream, not with you guys, just to answer whatever questions that I can that we weren't able to get to, if that's all right? I'll, of course, not say anything that's like, that's a question for them, but like, is that all cool? I believe so.
No one is telling me that is not cool, so I say go
all
for
right,
it.
yeah, all right. I'm just going to talk to them. Thank you again. See ya. Okay, so I'll try to answer whatever questions I can. I am not the dev team. I don't have all the ins and outs. And I will just tell you guys what I have learned. So if you have any questions that you wanted to get answered that maybe I didn't get a chance to ask, yeah, will the ability to play as a cat boy or not be a deal breaker for you? Not be a deal breaker, but incredibly disappointing if not, because my other go-to is just human or elf-like. Yeah. One thing I do want to note, something that the community manager, Faye, mentioned that they are trying to do, kind of a side objective they have in showing off this game, is FPC feels as though there is a divide, a unfortunately sometimes hostile divide between developers and gamers. This secrecy, this lack of communication, this us versus them, and it's sad to see, you know. I believe it's sad to see. I don't believe anyone wants that, and I believe, judging from what Faye had to say and how FPC is approaching this, is they want to establish trust between gamers and developers. Like, they want to be transparent, and that's partly why they're willing to show a game that's this broken and that's this unfinished and that's this open to feedback, is because they want to be like, we have nothing to hide from you. We're not trying to pull one over on you. We do not want a hostile relationship. We are making this for us, but we're also making it for you. And we care about you. That is the one thing that I can say, what I've seen anyway from FPC, is that they care a lot about the people who play their game. Whether or not that's going to result in a good game, we'll have to see. You know, a good game or not, I think they're happy and willing to make a game that is going to receive a lot of criticism. I don't think they're scared about that. But, yeah. I believe, when they say we want to establish trust with the player, I believe them. How much do they want to do about social aspects? Gold Saucer, minigames, housing. So they are definitely going to be having the basic social things, I believe. They've said that they want to have, you know, friends list, guilds, transmog for sure. Greg is majorly responsible for the transmog system in World of Warcraft. In fact, he came up with the name. So I asked him in a previous interview, and he said, yeah, we are absolutely. He said that they feel as though it is their responsibility to have a transmog system. Minigames, I don't know. Housing, I don't know. I used to think... I used to be fond of the idea of housing, but as time has gone on, I kind of hope they don't, because I feel as though housing is not a very social aspect of MMOs. It is not a very social mechanic. If you have a house, you're going to want to hang out in your house. You're not going to want to go out and interact with players. And the more things you put in that house, the more the players are going to wait in that house. So I think putting things in the world, attaching them to NPCs, to public areas, to shops and stuff out in the open, I think that takes advantage of it being an MMO, and that makes MMOs shine, is things out in the world. So that's what I believe. Because let's say if everyone has to use an inn, well, you're going to see a bunch of people at the inn. If you can buy a house, well, people are going to go to their house. Does that make sense? But as far as things like mini games, like Gold Saucer, I don't think they're thinking that far ahead yet. I think it's up in the air. If they're looking for a suggestion, big in-game events would help to deliver the story they're talking about. Ko asked how they plan to tell the players the story, and they didn't seem to have a solid answer. Yeah, that could be a thing. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because I can understand how that may go wrong, because big in-game events are cool, but it also runs the risk that not everyone's going to be there to experience it. Now, you could just have the event go on for several weeks. That could be a thing as well. But I think talking with them, I push back a lot on when it comes to FOMO, and talking with them, they seem to be okay with people missing some things. And that's very brave, and I respect that. You know, when a big story event is happening that is going on in this very living MMO that is happening, that is live, that is ever evolving and changing, some people are going to miss that, and I think they're okay with that. I have my own gripes with it, but that is the direction that they are going. What is the overall character theme? I'm getting mixed vibes from the Radiance theme and the mixture of the classes. So, classes, they answered this when I interviewed Greg a month or so ago. Their classes are tied to various different factions in the game, but that does not inherently mean that you are tied to that theme if you so wish to design them differently via like a transmog or gear or stuff. So think of it like Final Fantasy XIV. Marauders are from Limsa. Arcanists are from Limsa, so they are very Limsa based, very Limsa themed in their story and design and stuff. Alternatively, gladiators are from Ul'dah. Thaumaturges are from Ul'dah. Pugilists are from Ul'dah. So think of it like that, but it pushed even more so. Like, I feel as though the themes of Final Fantasy classes are more agnostic, like they're not inherently tied to any one faction, but think if they were. Think if, like, the Paladin was a bit more tied, like, I don't know, you had their design more like the Sultan Sworn, like more airy, kind of clothy wear, like a turban and stuff like that, because they're from the desert. Kind of things that breathe well in sandy, hot environments. But as far as I understand it, that is not the only way to look with that class. But yeah, that's how they're going to be themed, is like, this is going to be the city that has the paladin and the mage and the rogue, and this is going to be the city that has a paladin and a warrior and a rogue, and maybe has no mages and stuff like that. This is going to be the city that and faction that has the barbarian class and the assassin class and, I don't know, the bard class, you know, stuff like that. No race lock, don't worry. I asked about racial bonuses and kind of racial traits and stuff like that. Greg said absolutely not. They don't want to do that because they don't want to restrict people. So you can make a knight in an Old West bandit outfit and it would work. Yeah, I think so. At the same time, placating the to toxic entitled gamers by responding to everything is a slippery slope. Yeah, that's why they responded. They have filters. They have a vision of what kind of game they want to make, and the feedback they're looking for is how do we make that game the best version of that game that we're trying to build, rather than make the game different. You know, there's a difference between I think this motorcycle needs a safety harness, and I think this motorcycle needs 2 more wheels and a steering wheel and a cover over the top, right? Because the latter is changing the motorcycle into a car, whereas the former is making the motorcycle better. Does that make sense? And I think they have a pretty good grip as to what feedback sounds like what. I played a game like that a decade ago where the various holiday events also let you play previous year's events. That would be cool. I think they could certainly try something like that. I know they mentioned wanting to make it easier to progress with alts, but will it be story-focused progression in the world, or more like WoW where you can ignore it, power level, and do whatever you can get to? I don't know about that. I'll have to ask them. I don't actually know. I think if their vibe, this is just me speculating, if the vibe I'm getting from them is correct, I believe they would not want to tie it to story, and they would want you to be able to level kind of separately with a leveling system. But I don't know that for sure. Where can I check the game out for myself? Read up on it. You can go to, let's see, fantastic. You can go to fantasticpixelcastle.com. They've got all the information about the game. Somebody asked something about market boards as well and marketplaces, and I think Greg had a similar answer to that as I do with housing, in that he does not believe the marketplace or like market board is a very social area, because you put a thing on the market and you go away and you leave. Here, I can link you my video, actually, or my Q&A with Greg and Faye. Cat, let's see, JoCat Project Ghost, which answers a lot of these questions. So I'll link that in the chat as well. Oh, damn, thank you, Rival. Much appreciated. The classes here are a heck of a lot more specific to a certain thematic. Yeah, they are. Now, I will say, some people are thinking like 30 classes, that's a lot. Whoa, are you crazy? Are you insane? And maybe they are. I think that's insane. What Greg mentioned to me a while back was that the plan, it's not that much different from how WoW works. WoW started with 9 classes, I believe, and each of them had 3 talent tree specs, essentially. So if you look at it that way, it's kind of like already they had 27 classes, if you think about it. Now, it's not exactly the same thing, you know, you kind of mix and match and stuff like that, but that's how he put it. And in that aspect, yeah, it kind of is like having 30 classes. Yeah. Love my bar. Thank you. Anyway, I think that's about it that I can answer. I can't answer a lot. I'm not on the dev team. Oh, we got more questions. Did they mention how crafting works? Would I be able to plop myself down anywhere? They did not. They do want crafting to be a part of the game. I don't believe they have kind of settled down on how they want that to work yet. But as far as I understand, they do want crafting to be a part of the game. I personally would like... I'd be fine with either the Final Fantasy way or the WoW way, you know, having to go to the crafting area, or the Final Fantasy way of being able to plop down anywhere. How do you feel playing the game? Anything you can compare it to off the top of your head? I would compare it to Guild Wars 2 a bit. You know, the very high focus on movement and abilities, like a small group of a handful of abilities that you focus on. It feels a lot like Guild Wars 2 and the soft target locking system as well. So I think if you play Guild Wars 2, this will feel familiar to you, if a little bit clunkier. I feel as though the locking you in place thing, I think there's ways it can work. Right now it feels a little stiff. The fact that they kind of do the action game thing of your character, like say you play a melee character like the Dreamblade and you slash forward, it will lock you in place and move you forward towards your target. And I think they need to work on how that feels a little bit, because it feels a bit clunky, personally. But yeah, that's what I would compare it to the most, is Guild Wars 2. Yeah, a bit more rigid. 1 to 10, how excited for it are you? Are you confident that the number will increase as time goes on? All right, so I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be brutally honest. From 1 to 10, my excitement for this game is a 4. Because it's not finished. Because game development is volatile and anything can happen. This game could be canceled tomorrow. This game could be released in a year's time. The game could take much longer and be slow, and I don't know. So I am excited to see the process of development more so than I am excited about a game to play. Does that make sense? Like, as a game for me to play, I am just completely, that aspect of my mind, I'm putting out of my mind, because I don't know if this game will exist. What I'm excited about is seeing the process. And I think beside all of that stuff about the game, what it's going to be, what it will be, what they plan for it to be, all these aspects, like what they're implementing, what changes, what feedback, all of that, completely separate from that, I think the value of this game, the biggest value of this game, is the fact that we're able to see it as it's being made. And even should the game not come out, I think that in and of itself is valuable. Like, how many games are willing to show you this early, right? That aren't just, I don't know, Kickstarter scams of like asset flips, right? Like, that they were able to make this in a year is impressive. So I already kind of, process of elimination, like this is a game. Or rather, they intend on making this a game, a real game that they want to release. Now, anything can happen, of course, but they are making this game with the intent to release it and not take 5+ years. So with that in mind, I'm like, okay, then now we get to see how the sausage is made. And that is cool. I like that. There are so many games that I wish I could have seen earlier versions of it in development, because the process is interesting. And I think seeing the process, going back to what I was talking about, FaZe saying about establishing trust with gamers again, I think that will go a long way in establishing trust with gamers again, is showing the messy, unfinished, messy process of making a game. And I think that's cool. Yeah, Minecraft, that's pretty cool. The process is an art form to enjoy. Yeah, I agree. I want to know how their aggro system works so I can mess with my friends who's tank main. Yeah, well, we'll have to see. They don't have an aggro system in the game just yet, but that's my biggest thing is please get an aggro system in the game. That will make playtesting it much better. Yeah, Minecraft was pretty interesting to watch. Like, seeing Minecraft in its early stages and then seeing where it is now, it's like, it's just cool. We are now getting out of the prep stages and putting it in the pan. Now we just gotta watch. Yeah. Yep. If you're ever curious about the process of some stuff, I'd love to show you some FX idea and workflows. Get it cleared with the team first. Wait a minute, is this someone from the team? Spurl TV? Is this an FPC staff? Sparrow? Oh. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with all of the FPC staff. Mayhaps. Oh, well, yeah, I'd be, happy to see the process. I love seeing how things are made. It's good to have that thought process, but also be comfortable with unhappy people. There were pretty vitriolic people in the other creators' chats mad the game is in a gray box state. Yeah. Which I'm glad you guys are nice about it. And it's like, yeah, some people aren't going to care. And some people are just going to be like, game bad, game unfinished, which they know. And they're not wrong, but I believe that just like how not every game is for everyone, like this reveal is not for them. This reveal and showcase is not for people who are looking for a finished game. This is not for people who are looking for something to get hyped over. I believe the value in these streams, these videos, these showcases that they're doing, this talking to the community and showing the process, is just to show how a game is made. What does a game in progress looks like? And I believe that conflicts with some people being like, don't show it until it looks finished. And I disagree. Like, some games, if you don't, like, it's up to the developer. If they want to wait until the product is finished, then I think that's valid. But I don't believe that you should never show a game until it's finished, until, you know, it's in a finished state. I think there is value in seeing things in progress. So the game is in early access? Oh no, earlier than that. I would say not even alpha. I would go as far as to say this game is getting the base functions of what the game is first. This dev showcase is more about education on game dev rather than marketing move. Yeah. Yeah, and early feedback, yeah. JoCat access. I'm personally probably not the target audience for this game, but I'm very much in the target audience for the open kitchen shop talk vibe. Yeah, there you go. And that's where I believe this the value of this is, even beyond. That's why I wanted to bring up, like, ignoring the fact that anything could happen with this game, showing it in process is good. Yeah, prototype stage, exactly. And I like that. And one thing, actually, another thing that Faye said to me was that she said, I miss when MMOs had players make an impact on them. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? Because, like, I mean, people give feedback and stuff. And she mentioned that old MMOs had players affect the stories in their worlds. And I don't know what MMO specifically she gave. She gave some examples. I forget what they were. But back in old MMOs, like pre-EverQuest even, MMOs, you know, players would be the ones pushing, evolving the world. And like, I don't know how she put it, but yeah, like, and I'm like, that sounds super cool. I don't think any MMO I've played has done that. And she's like, yeah, like Helldivers. Yes, actually, like Helldivers 2. That's a great example. More like Helldivers 2. Muds. Yes, yes. She said muds. Muds were the thing that it's like, and if you don't want to know what muds stands for, I forget. Muds acronym. Let's see. Multi-user dungeon. Yes. Essentially, and those were like the prototype MMOs, essentially. Warframe did a bit of community deciding how conflicts went in lore. Oh. Mm-hmm. But yeah, things like Helldivers, I think, is a democratic story progression, exactly, yeah. And to me, when she said that, I was like, that sounds so cool. MMOs did that? And she's like, yes, MMOs did that at one point in time. And that sounds cool to me. And I would like MMOs to do that again. That is an era of MMOs that I've never had the privilege of experiencing. And I think if the community around Helldivers is anything to go by, I think people would very much like to do that. Regarding this, what's the best way to contact you if/when I've got the go-ahead? Oh, on Discord is fine. You can add me on Discord. That's probably the best way. Thank you so much for the offer. Tribes Ascend did that. Oh, interesting. The skating game? The first-person shooter, like, slidey, skatey jetpack game? Huh. For Honor used to do something like that. Yes, the factions, the 3 factions, yeah. Same thing. It's in a similar way. Planetside 2 as well, because of the 3 factions in Planetside 2. I love communities like Helldivers where the players are always in character. Yeah. It's fun. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to find someone to raid, and I got a very busy day ahead of me. So thank you guys for coming to watch. Thank you for being patient, and thank you for being okay with me being the quieter one. I feel as though I had more yard time, yeah. Thank you for asking your questions. Sorry I couldn't get to all of them. I just didn't want to step over Josh or Ko's toes. I feel as though they had, you know, stronger speaking voices than I do. I gotta be more assertive in the future when it comes to collabs like this. But they've done this a lot longer than I have, and I believe a lot more extroverted than I am. But that's something that I need to work on, and I'll try to do better with. But I hope this was still an informative stream. I am working on a video to talk about Ghost in more detail and my thoughts about it. So if any of that you feel as though you didn't get a good idea of that this time around, hopefully that next video will be good. I will try to release it before I go to PAX. I'm going to PAX West this year, so if you're going to Seattle, if you're in Seattle and you see me, come say hi. I'll be wearing my yellow bow in my hair so that I'll be easy to find. So you don't have to be like, oh, is that Joe? Like if you see my yellow bow, you'll know it's me. Or it might not be me. It might be somebody else impersonating me. But yeah, if you see me in Seattle at PAX West towards the end of this month, come say hi. Unless I'm eating or something. Wait until I'm done eating if you see me eating. But by all means, interrupt, come bug me, say hi, take a picture. Yeah. Anyway, let's raid. Anarchy's playing Potionomics. They added voice acting to the game. That is the biggest buy panic game ever. It was my favorite game of that year. I think it was released 2022. And they added voice acting for all of the characters. So this is your chance to see the game with voice acting. I might do another playthrough of it with Echo now that it does have voice acting. So yeah, super duper fun game. My favorite potion-based game so far. So yeah, what shall our raid message be? And unlimited time. Yeah, they added an endless mode so that you can finish up all the little dating sim stuff. Yeah, and a poly option as well. You can be polyamorous now. It's great. Yeah, it's got dating sim aspects. Give me your potion seller. Potion seller, I demand your strongest potions. Yes. And various other things. I'm going into battle. Alright. Thank you guys for joining me. I will see you tomorrow for more Dark Souls Remastered with crowd control. Bye!